Hi, everyone. All right, so today we are jumping into percentages, and we are going to be working on how to discover a percentage based on a model. We're going to be using a hundreds graph or a hundreds grid, and we're also going to be using things that have less than 100 as the whole. So let's jump in. Do you remember ratio tables? We did it a couple of weeks ago. Basically, we put numbers, ratios in a table to discover a missing number, all right? So if I were going to solve for this number, I would notice that I'm going to go from the top to the bottom, because if I go from the bottom to the top, I'm not going to have anywhere to start, all right? So I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. But I still don't know what I'm looking for, so I'm going to go to the other side first. From 4 to 16, I know that I'm getting bigger, so I'm going to multiply. And 4 times what is 16? 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, so 4 times 4 equals 16. Then I go to the other side. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do on the other side. So what do I need to multiply 2 by? I need to do 2 times 4. All right, and 2 times 4 gives me, anybody know it? It gives me 8. Okay, so then I just filled in my ratio table, 4 and 16, 2 and 8, or 2 compared to 4, and 8 compared to 16. Maybe you're asking yourself, why are we learning ratio tables again? It's going to help you figure out percents. Let me show you. You can use ratio tables to solve percentage problems too. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have this hundreds grid, all right? You see that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I know that my part is 12 and my whole is, well, I know that this is a hundreds grid, so my whole is 100. And that is going to be my ratio. 12 compared to 100. So let's put in a table and see if we can use this to discover what the percentage is for the number of squares colored in blue. All right, so I see that I have 12 and 100 because in my ratio it was 12 parts compared to 100 as the whole. And now I need to find my percent. All right, you might see that I have 2 blanks right here. But when you're dealing with percents, you actually only always have one unknown because you always know the whole. The whole, when you're working with percents, is always going to be 100. That's what it has to be. It's always going to be that. Okay? So now this looks a whole lot like our ratio table from before. And I'm going to use my knowledge about ratio tables to solve for what the percentage of blue squares out of the whole 100 there is. So let's find out the percent. First, what I'm going to do is see that my missing number is on the bottom. So I can't go from the bottom to the top. That wouldn't work out too well because I don't have anywhere to start from. So I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to do it over here since I have both my numbers. And to go from 100 to 100, I'm staying the same. I like multiplication, so I'm going to use multiply. 100 times what gives me 100? Well, anything times 1 gives you the same number. So it's 100 times 1. On the other side, I do the exact same thing. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And 12 times 1 gives me, does anybody know what it gives me? 12 times 1 gives me 12. So in this case, the percentage of blue squares compared to the whole is going to be 12%. Right? Because it was 12 squares colored in blue out of 100 squares in all. You might be noticing that when it's 100 as our whole, it's the same amount for our percentage. Keep that in mind. So let's try this. I would love y'all's help to fill in this ratio table based on this model over here. All right. This model is another hundreds grid. So what do we automatically know that we can write in the whole spot on our grid? The whole for our ratio is going to be 100. Okay? Now let's figure out our part because we don't know that yet. Our part, we want to know the part that is shaded pink. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You might like to count down and up. I like to count across, but I'll do it down and up for y'all, okay? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. All right, so the part of our grid that is shaded is 52. All right, so then we can go down to our bottom, our percent. We know that our whole, when we're working with percent, is always 100. You might be thinking, that looks like the same number. You're right. To go from 100 in a ratio to 100 in a percent, you just times 1. So you also do that to the other side. And 52 times 1 gives me 52. So the answer for this question, for what is our percentage of shaded pink squares, is 52%. All right, you might be noticing a pattern, okay? If you have 100 as the whole, your percent is always going to be however many pieces of the part you have, okay? What if 100 isn't the whole? All right, life is really easy when the whole is 100 because we know how to find the percent. But what if 100 isn't the whole? This is where the ratio table is going to come in handy. Our ratio for this model is a part to a whole. And we're looking at the part that is shaded blue. All right, so the part that's shaded blue is 1. So we know that our number right here has to be 1. And our whole, all the parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we know that our ratio is going to be 1 compared to 10. And let's go ahead and put that in our table. Now we're talking about percent, and it gets a little bit more tricky now that 100 isn't our total in the ratio, or in the model. But remember what I said, when you're dealing with percent, 100 is always the total. You will always use 100 as the total if you're trying to find percent. So we can put 100 right there. And now it just looks like one of our classic ratio tables. To solve this, you would go, I know my empty square is right here, so I can't go from the bottom to the top because I don't have anywhere to start. So I go from the top to the bottom. So I'll do it over here where I have 2 numbers, from 10 to 100. I notice that I'm getting bigger, and so I'm going to multiply, and 10 times what gives me 100? 10 times 10 gives me 100. Okay? That kind of looks like an addition, but I promise it's a multiply. All right? So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So over here, I multiplied by 10. So now I'll do 1 times 10. And 1 times 10 gives me 10. That was pretty easy. And now we know that if it asked us what percent of the bar is shaded blue, we would say 10% of the bar is shaded blue, because that's how we figured out our ratio table. Let's look at another example. Right here, we have another bar and we have another piece shaded. Right now, I want you to write the ratio for this bar, the amount shaded compared to the whole. So the amount shaded is going to be 1, all right? And the whole is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pieces make up the whole. So we know that our ratio is 1 part compared to 4 in total as the whole. So now we need to find out what percent is shaded in. What percent is shaded in pink? All right. So when we're working with percents, remember, what is our total always? I'm going to wait until somebody says it in the chat. It is 100. All right. 4 to 100 will help us figure out our empty square. What percent of our bar is shaded in pink? So to go from 4 to 100, so I know that 4 times 25 is going to give me 100. You could also just use a calculator. All right, 4 times 25 gives me 100. So now I go over here and I see 1 times, I have to do whatever I did over here. So 1 times 25. 1 times 25 gives me 25. So what percent of the bar is shaded in pink? The answer is 25%. Okay? All right,